Thinking Man's Thursday. And this time, I'm going to start with a piece of, not exactly poetry, but we'll call it poetic prose. No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of my friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. That was John Donne in, if I recall correctly, 1653. Now, the purpose of that, and as you can tell by the thumbnail, the topic for today, is the interconnectedness of things. Whether we're talking about in a spiritual sense, in a scientific sense, or in a philosophical sense, though less philosophically, maybe more politically philosophically. But part of my personal spirituality is that all things are interconnected. Now, that's informed by science as well, whether you believe in the idea of the Jung's collective unconscious, where there is a degree of correspondence between the dreams of various different people, though I think that's more of a cultural thing. Or if you want to go the whole route of, in terms of PSI, the idea of psychic interconnectedness, which may, and I'll heavily qualify that with a may, have some validity. After all, we still haven't figured out why you can yawn at the back of a room where no one can see you, and a lot of other people in the room will yawn in response. That's one of the most fascinating things about people, if you ask me. But whether it's talking about a person, or a family, a community, even a nation on this planet, no one exists completely in isolation. You cannot. People are social creatures, and we need those interconnections. That's part of the reason why so many of us recoil at the idea of being told to live in the pod. Let alone eating the boogs, just living in the pod. I won't do it. Many of my friends are even more vehemently opposed to it. But, speaking of my friends, it was actually my friend Based Ape who made a comment about the, we'll call it the exodus from YouTube. Now, I personally have left YouTube for my live streams. Only for my live streams. Because when I want to express my opinion to the fullest, I want to be able to do it openly, honestly, without self-censorship, without any gloss having to be added to it. Because I want to be honest with you guys. And, unfortunately, if I get to the point of being relaxed with a guest, I actually have a couple that I'm going to be approaching in the near future to have some conversations on my channel. Just a moment. My apologies, the neighbor kids don't know how mufflers work. But in the near future, I do plan to invite a couple more guests on for specials. Now, that will be after, Tuesday the 11th of April. From the 4th to the 11th, I won't be creating any content. I will have a few things ready to go and be uploaded. Most likely Terra Nova Tuesday on the 4th, the coming Tuesday, will be my last piece until the next Wednesday. Until the next Thursday. I anticipate having at least 2 more chapters of Tegla ready to go by then, by the time I leave for my holiday. Excuse me. Anyway, to get back to where I was, my friend Based Ape brought up the YouTube exodus to Rumble, and as I said, I have chosen to move my live streams completely to Rumble, but that's more a case of a combination of linguistic habit. I tend to swear, especially when I feel relaxed or I'm expressing an honest opinion, something that I haven't thought through. And to be honest, YouTube's continuing restrictions on certain topics make no sense. And you guys know which topics I'm talking about. Obviously. That one, the recent pew pew. Yeah, there's going to be some issues with that. By the recent pew pew, I don't mean what happened in Nashville, though I have some opinions about that. I actually mean the restrictions that YouTube has placed on content related to pew pew. And I really hate that I have to euphemize it that way. But, as I said, my friend Based Ape brought up the YouTube exodus to Rumble. And one of his comments in the discussion we had was along the lines of how we should stick together. How we wouldn't, as conservatives or people who actually believe in free speech, people on our side. And I have to be a little bit nebulous because it's kind of a broad church to sit under, or a big umbrella, I suppose. But, yeah. I suppose the anti-cathedral crowd might be the best way to put it. But his comment got me thinking about how, I firmly believe in the interconnectedness of things. Whether it's something as simple as people throwing litter out, just making the environment look bad, let alone the pollution it actually creates. Or how, for example, the green agenda has this idea that if we put solar panels and windmills everywhere, we'll somehow solve global warming. Yet they neglect to pay attention to the fact that you'd have to strip mine like crazy and probably double oil production on the planet. Yeah, that won't increase pollution at all. Let alone the fact that your average EV lasts about 10 years. Whereas if you're careful with a vehicle, with an actual ICE vehicle, you can drive it for 50. Or at least you used to be able to. I think we should probably consider going back a step. Even something as simple as pavement, as asphalt on highways. Here in Newfoundland, we have a monster of a freeze-thaw cycle through the winter, and it tends to create really bad roads. And it's even worse now since they took the tar out of the road surfaces. Now, instead of a road surface lasting 5, maybe 10 years, depending on the traffic, you're lucky if it lasts 3 before it needs to be replaced. Now, that's great for construction businesses and paving businesses, but it's terrible for the environment because all those resources had to be constantly cycled through at a much higher rate. Interconnectedness. That affects wildlife, it affects resources, it affects your taxes. But, and I'm just making a quick check of a note that I had made to myself last night when I was thinking about doing this video. One of the things that continuously comes up is the topic of the culture war. And we're all culture warriors, whether we want to be or not. We've all been drafted. You don't get to be a bystander or a non-aggressant or a non-aggressive in the culture war. You are being aggressed against. You don't have a choice. And whichever side you're on, it's obvious to my friend Based Ape, and should have been obvious to me, that one army is going to be a better choice than a dozen smaller ones. One large army. Or one large side versus a dozen smaller ones. Even if those dozens of smaller ones have similar agendas. Now I've kind of lost the thread of what I was talking about, so I'll do the shilling. Like, share, subscribe, comment, Rumble, follow on Rumble. Yeah. And if you look in the description, you'll find links to pretty much everything else I'm doing. Let's see. But even in a financial sense, we can look at interconnectedness there. we get higher taxes because the environment is bad. That doesn't make sense, but it is interconnected. For example, I pay higher taxes for food because gas is suddenly being attacked as bad for the environment. Yeah. Pipelines. Pipelines are being... now, here's a great example of interconnectedness. Pipelines save lives. Now, there's a lot of you out there going, wait, what? Okay, I will use the name of a town in Quebec and point to an incident earlier this year as well in, was it Tennessee? I can't remember for sure where it was. Or it may have been Oklahoma. I can't remember for sure. But Lac-Mégantic, a few years ago, had a massive train derailment with, if I recall correctly, diesel cars exploding, caused massive devastation. Part of the reason that those chemicals were on that train is because Quebec refuses to allow pipelines to be built because they want to save the environment. Well, all that burning gas off of that rail line didn't do a lot for the environment, did it? Similarly I have to pause and actually look it up, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. It was the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Sorry, very bad nail. But again, now, granted, pipelines wouldn't have made a difference there, but in Lac-Mégantic, because the Quebec government would not allow a pipeline to be built, and burying things underground is a great way to make sure they don't burst into flames. Had the Quebec government allowed a pipeline to carry that petrochemical, whether it was diesel, gasoline, what have you, if that had been moved through a pipeline, then there never could have been a train derailment and an explosion. Now, granted, pipelines have been known to explode, but almost all those times they've been eco-warriors, environmental terrorists. And it's much the same thing with any issue at all, that there is a certain degree of interconnectedness. Those of us who want to protect children from being sexualized are occasionally characterized as being anti-trans. We're not anti-trans, we're anti-pervert. We don't care what an adult does to their own body. What we care about is if they encourage a child to do the same thing, or if they're trying to show child porn to a child, or if they're trying to show porn of any sort to a child. It doesn't matter to us. The interconnectedness there is our intent is to protect children, period. Doesn't matter if we're protecting them from a school shooter or a school pervert. That interconnection is still there. And that's not because we hate anybody, or even that we have any personal connection to those children. I have no connection whatsoever to the kids in Tennessee, or even the kids in Uvalde. But I know for a fact that had I been present, and had I had the ability to do something, I would have acted immediately. Much the same with the guy who was stabbed in Vancouver recently. Had I been there, I would have acted in some fashion. Not because I want to be a hero, not because I want my name spattered all through the media. It's because a good man does the right thing at the time it needs to be done. Because I expect other good men to aid me when I need help. That's because we're all connected to each other. It's pretty simple, really. Anyway, guys, that's my little rant for the day. I'm thinking my voice is actually a little better than it was, so I'm going to try to record the rest of Tegla today. Editing generally takes a lot longer than simply recording, so it may be a case of several weeks. What I'm hoping to do is get all the editing done before Saturday, so that I can actually release content every day during the week while I'm gone. Saturday and Sunday, you'll just have to make do with the Sultans. And, you know, there's always other guys. Broken Crown, Discordia. Yeah. Christopher Everard will have trim on the 2nd, so that'll be after my live stream. Yeah, so there we go. There won't be a Monday Media review. Actually, no, that's wrong. There will be, but it won't be Razorline. I'm going to watch something short and just do a quick one for that. Anyway, as I was trying to do, I'll shut myself up now and tell you guys, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.